Hello, well in this video I'm going to be making the midsole for my shoes. Now the midsole basically connects the upper of the shoe, so if you like that bit, to the soles. It's hence the name midsole, it's between the two. And I'm going to be using some fairly tough leather for the midsole. Now my advice here would be actually not to use the leather that I'm using in this video, because I'm just adding this bit in having shot the video and made the midsoles. I'm using bulletproof sole leather and it is just so tough. I mean, it really is unbelievably tough. It's quite thick, it's about 5mm thick roughly, 4 or 5mm thick, but it is so strong you have trouble cutting it or doing anything with it. And you'll see in the video that I'm actually soaking it and trying to get it to do what I want it to do. I get there in the end, but I'm just saying this up front as a word of, if you like, caution for yourself, that I would get some leather which is not quite so hard. This is 10+6 leather out of 6, so it's the hardest leather you can get, and I have to say it makes very good armour. It is incredible. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It goes pretty well all in, and I'll let you get on. Well, this is the hardest leather I have ever tried cutting. It is quite amazing. It makes very good armour. So I'm going to try soaking it in water. I do need to actually soak it to fit my shoe. The bottom of my shoe lasts. So I'm going to soak it now and see if that helps with the work on it. It's just so tough. It is incredible. Knife does get through it, but you have to do multiple passes with a lot of pressure, so not an easy one. I've tried various drag knives, clicker knives and what have you, all pretty sharp. So soaking coming up next. It's amazing how even just like a dip in water, this has had about 3 or 4 dips now, it's just enough to let the water sink into the leather. I don't want it completely sopping and drenched, but I do want it to be holding enough water to make it easier to cut. The other reason for actually doing this casing is to make it so I can then hammer it onto the last and it will take the shape of the last. So that's the other reason. I don't want it completely drenching because it will then take a very long time to dry out. Well, I've left the leather just for casing overnight, so it got a good soaking yesterday, and overnight just wrapped it in a bit of paper in a bag, so I think it will have held its moisture, and what I'm hoping is also it will have sunk through a bit as well. It has got a bit thicker, I would say, not a lot but a bit thicker. So I've got my tub of thin lasting nails, so I'm going to hammer these in, just get it into position. Right, so now I can cut around. I just want to make sure that in the slight arch of the foot that leather is down fully, but it is. So this is the area where the shanks will be going in, but one can have it bouncing a bit, but that's okay. So what I'm hoping now is that with all my soaking that I can cut this round a bit more easily. And I'm going to start off using like a drag knife. So it's got a sharpened edge along here. It's curved, and the idea is the curve means you don't go and cut an upper when you're cutting around. But I'm hoping that this will be quite a good way of getting this trimmed down. And yes, it is. So I can now actually cut that. Being careful of this knife hook as well, that I don't go and get myself, which will be very easily done. So I'm doing this in a very controlled way. It's a bit like spoon carving, you have to be very careful with the knives. I'm just running around this edge just to sort of take the sharpness off it a little bit. So I'm just running around with a file, trying to get things a little bit sort of smoothed over. It's interesting, I think the file, as much as anything, it's sort of like, it does cut some of the leather off, file it off, but I think it's also semi like manipulating it because it's all wet, which is good, so it gets it all roughly into a sort of shape. Trying to get a bit of a sort of like a curve if I can. Not so harsh, pokey edges. Okay, so that's that one ready for the next job. I'll do the same on the other, and then I will be digging a couple of channels all the way around for stitching. Just in case it's of interest, the rasp I'm using here, it's a cobbler's rasp. You can get these really cheaply. This is not an expensive one at all. It's 4 different teeth sets on it, so you get, you know, whether you want a rough or a smoother, and whether you want a flat or a rounded edge, it's got it all there. So it's very useful rasp to have in one's little tool collection. And this one, as I say, it's about the cheapest one you can buy, and yeah, it's crude on its actual moulding, but it works perfectly well. So I'm going around marking about 7mm in from the edge, and this is going to make a channel which I will be shaving off in a minute. So I'm going all the way around. I've marked where the heel is going, so that's about 80mm in depth, that heel. So I'm going to go up to that heel edge, but I'm just going to mark it down all the way around, but excluding the heel. So I'm stopping just there. I'm now putting in my second marking line, and it's very roughly 6mm, quarter of an inch off the first one. So again, I'll ink it in so you can see it a bit more easily on camera. Okay, so I've marked my lines. What I'm now going to do, I've got a tool here called a feathering knife, and I'm going to go around cutting this outer piece first of all, and then I'll be doing a cut on the inside. I have also somewhere got another smaller feathering knife that I might need to use on this inner edge. Some people do this, they just use a knife and they do like a cut down, and then they do a cut in from the side, and that seems to give you quite a good effect. What you basically want is a step around this edge and a graduated curving down step on this inner edge, so you're left with this raised wall. The feathering knife is quite an interesting tool. It's got like a depth guide there, so you can sort of see how deep in you're going, which is quite handy. I've tried to get this one as sharp as I can, so I've been diamond stoning it, stropping it and everything to get it really sharp. So I think it will still be quite a struggle, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to follow this line as best I can and just try and take a bit off. Try and keep my hand behind the knife. In fact, I'm going to put an apron on because if this knife slips it could be a bit dodgy. So I'm trying to make this exterior channel going around. There's no doubt at all about it. Having cased this leather, it's a lot more manageable than it was, because I tried this when it was dry, just testing this knife out, and it was almost impossible. But now I'm finding it's certainly doing it. It's a little bit of a struggle, but I am getting there. I think it's just all going to need to be deeper. Oops. I don't want to go over. I want to try and keep that wall nice and straight. Maybe I'll need to spray a bit more water on this area once I've got down a bit, and then have another go at it. Anyway, I'll carry on going round. and keep this knife well away from the end of my legs. I have a smaller, flatter little feathering knife here, which I find is quite a nice little size and shape. So using a combination of two, it's going okay. I'm at the moment channeling all the outside there from in front of the heel. I mean, the little knives, they go along and you can just push them like that and get yourself quite a nice little wall. I found when I sharpened this one, I needed to try and keep the sort of sharpness going right into the corner for the little beak, and I need to keep the little pointy forward beak also very sharp as well. I think you may still be able to get these little feathering knives new. I mean, the two I've got are quite old, and I just got them in a sort of batch of old tools. I saw them there and thought, oh, that's exactly what I need. So that's how I got hold of them. But they are fairly rare these days, so not the easiest thing, but I think you will find them if you do want to have one. But you don't, as I say, you don't need to use a feathering knife. You can do it with the other ordinary knives. You could even do it just with a knife like this. Again, just take care. So I'm just going along here now, holding my feathering knife at a bit of an angle. This is probably where one could do with a left-handed knife. So the right-handed one has the little hook on one side, left-handed on the other. I can just go around here and scoop a little down channel. So what I'm getting here is a ridge. So this is in effect becoming a little raised wall. Just to say, I'm finding quite a good safe way of doing this is actually just gripping my shoemaking knife, my big long knife, and then just restricting its sort of movement just by doing little sweeping arcs inside here, and it is enough to plane away the leather to get that wall height built up there. So I'm using this awl that's got a curved blade, and what I've done is I've put holes all around through here and come out the other side of this wall like that. You see, so it's going right the way through, and I'll be able to stitch the welt on using all these holes that go around here. So they're all roughly on the outside here, they're spaced every 5 or 6 millimeters, about quarter inch, every quarter inch. Obviously on the inside they get closer, and in fact at the toe it becomes a bit like a bicycle wheel with spokes, lots of holes going through, but they're all roughly quarter of an inch on the outside edge there. So that's all ready now, and my next thing I'll be doing, apart from obviously lasting the upper, will be then stitching the welt on using those holes. One thing I would say, which I found just doing this, is I know I said I was going to do a little bit of trimming with the knife around the edges. In a couple of places I went a bit deep, and it's okay, I haven't gone the whole way through, but I've certainly gone deeper than I would choose, so that's something to watch for. The other thing from a safety point of view, apart from the fact I've got a double thickness leather apron on at the moment, I've been trying to do most of my work on the bench so that if a thing does slip it doesn't hit me. The other thing I've done from a safety point of view is I've had this sandbag underneath all the time. It's just a leather bag filled with play sand. Jewelers use them for pounding hammers, but I've been using that because two reasons really. One is I can mould it to the shoe and it holds the shoe in my lap quite nicely, but the other thing is if I were to slip I'll just damage the bag, I wouldn't get my leg or my thigh, and you really do have to be careful because these awls, I was using quite a bit of pressure and they're obviously quite sharp, so just a couple of safety things. But I have got my holes now done and my channels all done on both sets, so I'm ready for the next stage, which is great. So there you are. Quite pleased with the way that's gone all in all. Learned quite a lot, certainly not perfect by any means, but good enough I think to be able to keep going, which is the idea of this project. Try and get a pair of shoes out of this. Whether they're going to fit me, I don't know, but I'm learning all the techniques as I go along, and hopefully if you want to have a go you can see what I've been up to as well, and either decide not to do it that way or think, yeah, that worked quite well, and you got step by step. So we'll carry on, and I think my next step will be lasting. So I've got obviously got my shoe uppers here, and I'm going to need to last them over. So that would be quite interesting. We'll see how that one goes. It's all a bit of a leap of courage, this one, but hopefully I'll get there in the end. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see my disasters as I go along, you can subscribe and you'll see what happens. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.